The Civil War was the most documented conflict of the 19th century. Beyond the battlefields, these rare and unusual photographs reveal a side of history you've never seen before. Let's explore. In May 1862, Gibson captured this unusual gathering of Union officers' servants. Look closely. One man drinks directly from a bottle, while another is absorbed in a small book. Strangely, a third man grips a kettle handle for no apparent reason. Most surprisingly, an adventurous soul perched on a tree branch to join the frame. A rare, candid glimpse into camp life. A month later, Gibson captured this scene at Camp Lincoln in Richmond. Notice the relaxed posture of these two soldiers, appearing more like friends than warriors. Look closely at the man on the right. A rare smirk breaks the typical stern expression of the era. A brief moment of humanity amidst the chaos of war. While many photographers focused on fallen soldiers, this image captures a grim post-battle reality. Here, Dr. Richard Burr, an embalming surgeon for the Army of the James, demonstrates his procedure on a deceased soldier. Set upon makeshift barrels, it is a chilling glimpse into the early days of battlefield preservation. Take a close look at this 15-inch Rodman smoothbore gun at Fort Rogers. Not only is a large bird, likely an eagle, perched on top, but a Union soldier decided to prove the cannon's massive size by climbing inside. It's a bizarre and humorous moment, showing the sheer scale of 19th century artillery power. The Union soldier chose not to pose with his weapons, unlike many of his comrades. Instead, he proudly wears a long, hand-knitted scarf, likely a precious keepsake from home. In a world of cold steel and uniforms, this simple garment represents a warm connection to the family he left behind. In 1861, Company D of the 1st Rhode Island Infantry posed weeks before the Battle of Bull Run. Notice the strange details. A wooden mallet lies forgotten at the far right, while a soldier in the center grips an axe. On the left, a young volunteer strikes a bizarre pose, holding a comrade's rifle while pointing mysteriously at another. This peaceful scene shows the tents and staff of the General Hospital at City Point, Virginia, in October 1864. While the atmosphere seems calm, notice the far left. Two soldiers have decided to strike a battle pose for the camera. A stark contrast between the daily routine of healing and the ever-present reality of combat. A strange Civil War studio photo. This Confederate soldier, in full uniform, dramatically poses as if charging into battle with his bayonet. Safe in a studio, he pretends to run through the chaos of war. An unusual and theatrical attempt to show bravery and action. A touching and unusual Civil War portrait. A young Union soldier gently shows Nurse Eleanor C. Ransom a brass instrument. Known as Mother to the soldiers he cared for, she served in Tennessee hospitals and on northern transport ships. In this quiet moment, we see not just war, but gratitude, care, and a human connection that survived the battlefield. In a Civil War photo studio, two Union soldiers stage a dramatic fake duel. One aims a pistol directly at the other, while his comrade points a bayoneted rifle back at him. Safe inside the studio, they pretend to fight for the camera. A strange and theatrical scene that turns deadly war into dramatic entertainment. A relaxed and unusual Civil War portrait. Unlike stiff military poses, this young Union volunteer lies casually on the ground, rifle resting across his lap. In front of a painted battlefield backdrop, he looks calm and almost at ease. A strange glimpse into the human side of war, where even a soldier could still appear just like a boy taking a break. Overside a photo studio in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, an old Civil War veteran sits proudly on a small cart pulled by two dogs. Children gather around curiously, watching the unusual sight. A strange and charming scene that shows how veterans return to everyday life, turning war memories into local wonder and entertainment. Or outside a photo studio in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, an old Civil War veteran sits proudly on a small cart pulled by two dogs. Children gather around curiously, watching the unusual sight. A strange and charming scene that shows how veterans returned to everyday life, turning war memories into local wonder and entertainment. In the middle of the brutal siege of Petersburg, Virginia, soldiers of the 13th New York Heavy Artillery take a break. They gather in camp, laughing and playing ball like any ordinary young men. A strange and human moment, captured in the middle of one of the longest and bloodiest campaigns of the Civil War. A curious Civil War tintype of two brothers, William and Philip Letzinger, serving in the 14th Indiana Infantry. They pose awkwardly in front of a painted camp backdrop, one standing stiffly with his rifle, the other seated with a slightly confused expression. A strange and charming portrait that captures real brothers trying their best to look like tough soldiers. A wonderfully strange group portrait of Union soldiers. Instead of posing with weapons, these men proudly hold cigars and pipes. They gather closely, some smiling, creating a relaxed and almost playful composition. A rare and human moment, showing that even in the middle of war, soldiers still found ways to have fun and look cool for the camera. A fascinating Civil War portrait of an unnamed Union recruiting officer. He sits proudly beside his large box camera, the very tool he used to photograph and enlist new soldiers. Instead of a rifle, he poses with the machine that helped build the army. A strange and clever image showing how photography itself became a powerful weapon in the war. A hilarious and rare Civil War studio photo. Sergeant William Strait of the 38th New York sits completely drunk, feet up, barely awake after too much whiskey. His friend, Lieutenant Lucius Stanley, tries to wake him while smoking his pipe. A funny and very human moment, showing soldiers letting loose and joking in front of the camera during the war. A clever deception from the Civil War. In March 1862 at Centerville, Virginia, a man poses next to a Quaker gun, a fake cannon made from a painted wooden log. These dummies tricked Union General McClellan into believing the Confederates had far more powerful artillery. A strange and brilliant trick that helped shape the Peninsula Campaign. A deeply personal Civil War portrait. Charles Osgood of the 16th New Hampshire proudly holds up his army blanket, a simple but treasured piece of gear. He loved it so much, he posed with it during the war to send this photo home to his family and friends. A strange yet touching reminder that even the smallest items became precious symbols of survival and home. A mysterious and casual Civil War studio portrait. These Union soldiers chose to wear heavy winter coats instead of posing with blankets. One lies relaxed on the floor, while the others sit together, creating an unusually intimate scene. And look closely at the bottom. Whose hand is that reaching in? A strange and intriguing photo that feels almost too real. A stated but touching Civil War scene titled "The Soldier's Return." A Union veteran arrives home, greeted joyfully by his wife and young son. He stands with his tools while his family reaches out to welcome him. Though clearly posed in a studio, this image captured the deep longing millions of families felt, waiting for their soldiers to finally come home. A deeply unsettling Civil War group portrait. 5 comrades pose together. But look closer. The man in the back calmly aims a pistol directly at the head of the soldier in front. A chilling and bizarre detail in what should be a friendly photo. We can only hope the gun was unloaded, turning this into one of the strangest and most disturbing images of the era. May 1862, at Yorktown, Virginia. Union officers from the 1st Connecticut Heavy Artillery proudly pose with their massive 13-inch mortars. These enormous siege guns, some of the largest in the war, dwarf the men standing beside them. A striking and intimidating sight that shows the terrifying scale of firepower to crush Confederate defenses. March 1863, at Falmouth, Virginia. A 4-horse ambulance wagon stands ready for the Army of the Potomac. A lone soldier sits in the back, surrounded by the vast, muddy camp. These wagons carry the wounded, supplies, and sometimes the dead across the war-torn landscape. A quiet but powerful image of the everyday machinery that kept the Union Army moving. August 1862, during the retreat of General Pope. Union troops and supply wagons ford the Rappahannock River in Virginia. Horses, oxen, and men struggle through the water, while a wooden bridge stands in the distance. A chaotic and muddy scene that perfectly captures the enormous effort needed just to move an army across the war-torn landscape. Gettysburg, 1863. 3 captured Confederate soldiers, known as Johnny Reebs, sit casually on a pile of logs. Tired, bearded, and far from home, they still stared defiantly at the camera. A rare and haunting image that shows the human face of the enemy right after one of the bloodiest battles of the Civil War. May 21, 1864, at Massaponax, Virginia. A historic war council in the field. General Ulysses S. Grant sits on a bench, surrounded by General George Meade and other top Union commanders. They gather casually outdoors, planning the next moves of the war. One of the most remarkable images, showing the men who decided the fate of the nation right in the middle of battle. May 1865, at Petersburg, Virginia. A quiet and haunting scene after the fall of the city. A lone man sits on the rocks, watching water rush past a destroyed southern mill. The war is nearly over, but the landscape remains scarred. A beautiful yet melancholic image, capturing the silence that finally fell over the battlefields of the Civil War. 1864, in Atlanta, Georgia. Union soldiers under General Sherman destroy the railroad, heating rails and twisting them into Sherman's neckties. They stand amid smoke and wreckage, methodically crippling the South's ability to fight. A brutal and iconic image, showing the scorched earth tactics that helped bring the Confederacy to its knees. After 1865, at Petersburg, Virginia, in the final days of the war, Union soldiers in camp take a lighthearted break. They strike playful poses, some dancing, in front of their tents. After years of brutal fighting, these men finally allow themselves a moment of joy. A rare and uplifting image, showing the human spirit refusing to be broken by war. April 1865, in Richmond, Virginia. The ruined capital of the Confederacy lies in rubble. A lone man sits silently among the bricks, next to a destroyed locomotive. Once proud buildings now stand as hollow shells. A haunting and symbolic image, marking the final collapse of the Southern Rebellion and the end of America's bloodiest war. June 9th, 1865, in Richmond, Virginia, just weeks after the city fell, a group of newly freed black men, women, and children pose together at the ruins of Haxall Mill. They stand proud, some smiling, surrounded by the wreckage of the Confederacy. A powerful and hopeful image, marking the first days of freedom in the South after the end of slavery. Near Petersburg, Virginia, Union soldiers carefully load a massive mortar onto a railroad flat car. The enormous siege gun, used to pound Confederate lines, is now being moved by train. A striking image that reveals the incredible logistics and industrial power behind the Union war effort. August 1862, during the Second Battle of Bull Run, free black people and army wagons ford the Rappahannock River in Virginia. Oxen, horses, and people push through the water, fleeing the chaos of war. A powerful and chaotic image that shows not only soldiers, but the thousands of civilians caught in the storm of America's Civil War. A quiet street in St. Augustine, Florida, during the Civil War. Wooden houses line the dusty road, while a few locals stand and watch the photographer. Occupied early by Union forces, this historic town saw little fighting, but still felt the heavy hand of war. A rare and atmospheric image, capturing everyday Southern life under Northern occupation. March 1865, at Fort Sumter, where the Civil War began. A massive cannon lies broken among the rubble, while a soldier sits casually on top. The once proud fortress is now a pile of shattered brick and twisted metal. A symbolic and haunting image, showing the complete destruction of the place that fired the first shots of America's bloodiest conflict. April 1863, near Falmouth, Virginia. General William Oppinger and a group of Union staff officers posed together at Army of the Potomac headquarters. Dressed in full uniform, they sit and stand with serious expressions, representing the command that would soon fight at Chancellorsville. A classic and dignified portrait of the men directing one of the greatest armies in American history. April 1865, in the burned district of Richmond, Virginia. Entire blocks lie in ruins, with only hollow brick walls and chimneys left standing. The once proud capital of the Confederacy is now a sea of rubble and destruction. A devastating image that shows the final price the South paid for secession and 4 years of brutal Civil War. These strange and powerful photos reveal the real face of the Civil War. Not just battles, but humanity, horror, humor, and hope. If you enjoyed this journey through history, hit like, share with fellow history lovers, and subscribe for more rare vintage shots. Tell us in the comments which photo surprised you the most. See you in the next episode.